Let's now get an update from the ground, and my colleague Saurabh Gupta is joining us from the accident site in Balasore in Odisha. And Saurabh, take us through what the ground situation looks like right now as restoration work is currently underway. And till now, is there any clarity on what were the reasons behind this tragedy?
Well, yesterday we did speak to the Chief PRO of Southeastern Railway, and he indicated that initial suspicions point towards signal failure. But obviously the final, reasons and final conclusions will be drawn only after the completion of the Commissioner of Railway Safety's inquiry, a CRS inquiry, which is a detailed inquiry that looks into every aspect and looks at every parameter during the accident so as to find out what actually caused it. Now, we are at the Bahanaga, station, and here you can see, of course, restoration work is on in full swing. All the coaches that were on top of the, tracks yesterday have now been removed. You can see there's no coach here. There's work going on to restore the overhead traction, OHE electrification, overhead electrification as it's called. The OHE wires, of course, also were damaged. This is an electrified route. So obviously, this route will, so they're working now on restoring the overhead traction wires and restoring and relaying of the tracks that were badly damaged by the accident. So at this point, really, the railways are focusing on restoration of services, and that's something they say they hope to do by actually tomorrow. And that is something that you see work has been going on all night. In fact, it's going to go on all day and night till, of course, they can restore the tracks. Of course, once the restoration is done, railway services will resume on the tracks, because the railways have had to divert and cancel many trains. But at this point, you can see that van that you see in these pictures, this grey color van, is something that's working on overhead electrification restoration. And alongside, there are men, of course, working on the tracks as well to restore the tracks. The remains of the compartments that were badly damaged in the accident have now been, removed from the track area and have been thrown on the site. But at this point, really, the focus of the railways right now is, of course, to resume railway traffic, to restore the OHE electrification and the tracks that have been damaged by this accident. 288 people have died so far. That's the latest figure. And also, Railway Minister and others are monitoring the situation continuously.
Right, and sort of the focus now back on the need for more focus on railway safety as well, isn't it? Because the protection system Kavach wasn't in place on this route, and many are saying that that could have averted this disaster. And along with that question, another one being, is there a fear of the death toll rising? We know that the rescue work has been completed, 288 deaths confirmed, but is there a fear that the death toll could rise?
Absolutely, that fear exists, because at least over 50 are critically injured, and many of them could also, officials fear, turn into casualties. But the effort is to save them. That's the whole effort of the medical teams that are working. Now, questions on railway safety, very, very pertinent at this point, obviously, because, this is a time where these questions, especially the question of Kavach is something that's been in the works for years. It's basically what was, it's called a TCAS, or a train collision avoidance system. And it was, it was actually, the railways were thinking about it for a long time. In fact, from the time when Mamata Banerjee was railway minister. And that's when, these things started moving. But it hasn't moved as fast as many would like. The coverage of the Indian Railways, route, or the total length, is abysmal. I don't think it's even 5 to 10%. So in that context, really, while many have said faster trains, modern trains are welcome. In fact, India needs to modernize its railways and have better rakes, faster trains. But it's better to focus more on safety, because if safety is compromised, faster trains, etc., don't mean a thing. Because if lives are lost, what's the point? So there's a huge focus on Kavach. Kavach should have been covered more. It should have been implemented in a much faster way. The focus really should have been, bringing the entire railway network under Kavach. That's not happened. But obviously one hopes that, it'll pick up pace now, given the fact that 288 lives have already been lost. We don't need to see any more lives being lost before we really push this system into our railway tracks and coverage.
Well, Saurabh, thanks very much for joining us with those details.